I found a dead teacher in the lab after school, a story that changed my life forever. I never thought I would witness something like this. I never imagined I would find a dead body. But that's exactly what happened to me that night. It all started when I stayed after school for extra chemistry lessons. Mr. Johnson, our chemistry teacher, offered to help me prepare for the district olympiad. I was one of the best students in the class, and he believed in my abilities. "Michael, you have great potential," he often told me. "You could be a real scientist." I was flattered by his trust. Mr. Johnson was a wonderful teacher, always patient, kind, ready to help. He had worked at our school for over a decade, was married, had 2 children. Everyone loved him. That day, we were working on a complex organic chemistry experiment. Mr. Johnson wanted to show me how to properly perform a reaction with alkenes. We were working in the lab on the 3rd floor, where all the chemical reagents were kept. "You need to add the bromine water solution," he explained, "but do it very carefully. This substance is very reactive." I followed his instructions, adding the solution drop by drop to the flask. Everything was going according to plan until Mr. Johnson decided to check one of the reagents in the next cabinet. "Wait a minute, Michael," he said. "I need to check the concentration of the sodium thiosulfate solution." He left the lab for a few minutes. I continued working on the experiment, recording my observations in my lab journal. 5 minutes later, he did not return. I began to get nervous. He was usually very punctual. "Mr. Johnson," I called. "Are you there?" No answer. I got up from my seat and left the lab to find him. The school was almost empty. Most of the students had already gone home, and the teachers were getting ready to end their workday. I walked down the 3rd floor hallway. The doors to the other classrooms were closed. I looked into the staff room. It was empty. I looked into the biology, math, physics rooms. No one. Then I remembered what he had said about the room next door. It was an old lab that hadn't been used for the past few years. It was where old reagents and equipment were stored that were planned to be used for repairs. I went to the door of the old lab. It was slightly ajar. There was a faint smell of chemicals coming from inside. "Mr. Johnson?" I called again. No answer. But I thought I heard something that sounded like a moan. I opened the door all the way and entered the room. The light was dim, with only one window letting in sunlight. Dust danced in the air, illuminated by the sun's rays. And then I saw him. Mr. Johnson was lying on the floor next to the reagent cabinet. His eyes were open, but they couldn't see. His face was bluish. His lips were a shade of purple. "Oh my God!" I dropped to my knees beside him. "Mr. Johnson, Mr. Johnson." I checked for a pulse. Nothing. I tried to find a breath. Nothing. He was dead. My heart was beating faster than it had ever done. I had never seen a dead body. I had no idea what it looked like. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. The dispatcher answered almost immediately. "Emergency services. How can I help?" "Yes, this is Springfield School No. 42. We have a dead teacher here. Mr. Johnson. He's dead. Don't worry, kid. I'm sending the police and an ambulance." "What's your name?" "Michael Thompson. I'm a student. I was with him in the lab." "Okay, Michael. Don't touch anything. Wait until the officers get here." I stepped away from the body, but I couldn't take my eyes off it. What happened? How did he die? And why now? 10 minutes later, the police arrived. An officer named Martin entered the lab cautiously, his gun at the ready. "Who's here?" he asked. "I'm Michael Thompson. I found him." The officer looked at the body and knew immediately that The investigators continued their work in the lab. I stood in the corner, watching their actions, trying to figure out what had happened to Mr. Johnson. Michael, the lead investigator, Detective Williams, said to me, "We want to go over your version of events again. Every detail could be important." I nodded. "I've already told you everything." "Yes, but sometimes when we're stressed we forget important details. Try to remember again. Everything you remember." I took a deep breath and started to tell the story. Again, We were working on an experiment with alkenes. Mr. Johnson wanted to show me a reaction with bromine water. What reaction exactly? The bromination of alkenes. We used cyclohexene. When I added bromine water, the solution changed from colorless to yellow-brown. And then he said he needed to check the concentration of sodium thiosulfate. He left the lab. Do you remember what solution he was looking for? I thought about it. He said something about a 0.1 molar solution for titration, and you were alone in the lab. Yes, I kept recording observations. He didn't come back in 5 minutes, so I went to look for him. Did you touch anything in the old lab? No. I just walked in and saw it on the floor. Detective Williams nodded and turned to his partner. Check to see if we have any records of what reagents were stored in this lab. The partner left and returned a few minutes later with a folder. Here's last year's inventory. Most of the reagents are expired. What does that mean? That means some of them could have lost their properties, or conversely, become more dangerous. I felt a chill run down my spine. Do you think he was poisoned? It's too early to say, the detective replied, but we're looking at all possibilities. At 8 p.m., an ambulance arrived to examine the body. The doctors confirmed that Mr. Johnson had died about an hour ago. The cause of death was hypoxia, but the specific cause remained unknown. Could he have suffocated? I asked. Maybe, but then we should see signs of a choking attack or an allergic reaction. The investigators continued their analysis. They checked the ventilation system, analyzed the air in the room, checked for all possible sources of poisoning. Look at this, one of the experts said, pointing to a cabinet with reagents. This is where potassium cyanide is stored. I felt my heart stop. Cyanide, yes, it's very poisonous, but it has a characteristic almond smell. I didn't smell it. That's good. That means it wasn't the cause of death. At 9 p.m., Mr. Johnson's family arrived. His wife, Sarah, and 2 children. Emily, age 12, and Tommy, age 8, had come to answer the police call. Where is he? Sarah asked when she saw me. Where is my husband? I didn't know how to answer. I had never had to speak to the family of a dead person. Mrs. Johnson, Detective Williams said. Approaching her, I'm Detective Williams. I'm so sorry. No, she whispered. That can't be true. Her children were crying. Emily hugged her mother, and Tommy stood by, not understanding what was happening. Who is this? Sarah asked, pointing at me. That's Michael Thompson. He was with Mr. Johnson in the lab. She looked at me with pain in her eyes. You found him? I nodded. Yes, I'm so sorry. Why? She asked. Why did this happen? We don't know yet, the detective replied. But we will. Sarah came over to me. Were you the last person to see him alive? Yes, we were working on an experiment. He was as lively as I sat in my room, looking at a photo of the lab log on my phone. My hands were shaking, and my heart was beating so fast, I was afraid my whole family would hear me. Experiment number 47. Reaction with sodium thiosulfate. Warning, do not mix with bromine water at high temperatures. May produce toxic gases. What did I do? What did we do? I recalled the details of the experiment. We did use bromine water. And the lab was warm. The heating system was on full blast. But was it hot enough? I pulled out my organic chemistry textbook and started looking up information about the reaction of sodium thiosulfate with bromine water. And then I found something terrible. The reaction between sodium thiosulfate and bromine water at temperatures above 25 C can rapidly produce hydrogen bromide, a toxic gas that is a severe respiratory irritant and can be fatal if inhaled in high concentrations. To 5 C, that was only 77 F. It was much warmer in the lab, maybe 303 to C, and I was adding bromine water to a flask containing sodium thiosulfate. But why didn't Mr. Johnson mention this? Why didn't he warn me? He was an experienced chemist. He should have known about this danger. I continued reading. Hydrogen bromide is a colorless gas with a pungent odor. When inhaled, it causes coughing, wheezing, and photophobia. At high concentrations, it is fatal. I remember that I couldn't smell it, but maybe the gas was released too quickly and Mr. Johnson didn't have time to escape. But why did he go to the old lab? What was he looking for there? I looked at the magazine photo again, and then I noticed something else. At the end of the entry was something I hadn't noticed before. P.S. If anything goes wrong, just add a few drops of sodium thiosulfate that will neutralize the gas. He knew the danger. And he went to find more sodium thiosulfate to save me. But what happened to him? Why didn't he come back? I got out of bed and started pacing around the room. My head hurt and my thoughts were spinning around the same thing. At 3 a.m. I decided I couldn't wait any longer. I had to talk to someone who would understand. I picked up the phone and dialed Detective Williams' number. Hello? His sleepy voice came. Detective Williams, this is Michael Thompson. I need to tell you something. Michael, what's wrong? Why are you calling so late? I found something important. In Mr. Johnson's notes, something that might explain what happened. What, exactly? He wrote about a dangerous reaction between sodium thiosulfate and bromine water, and he went to get more sodium thiosulfate to neutralize the gas in case something went wrong. The phone was silent for a few seconds. Then the detective said, Michael, are you serious? This is very important information. I found this in the lab log. And I think that's exactly what happened. He inhaled toxic gas. Where are you now? At home. But I can come to school. No, don't. Stay home. I'll be there in an hour. At 4 a.m., Detective Williams arrived at my house. He looked tired, but interested. Show me these records, he said. I showed him the photo from my phone. He studied it carefully. This is terrible. He said he knew he was in danger and went to find the life-saving reagent. But something went wrong. Maybe he inhaled the gas before he could escape. I said, maybe. But then we should see signs of poisoning in the lab. Or maybe he inhaled the gas in the old lab. Detective Williams thought, that's possible. If the gas was released where he was, he couldn't have escaped in time. What about me? Did I inhale this gas? We need to examine you. But first, I want to check the lab again. At 5 o'clock, we set off for the school. The security guards let us in. The lab was the same as yesterday, only now it looked even more terrifying in the morning light. Asterisk, the investigators reanalyzed the air, checked the equipment. A few hours after my examination, Mr. Johnson's family arrived at the hospital. Detective Williams invited me in so I could tell them everything I had learned. Sarah Johnson sat in the ward, holding Emily and Tommy's hands. She looked exhausted, but she tried to be strong for the children. Michael, she said when she saw me. The detective said, you know what happened to my husband? I nodded. Yes, I learned something important. I told them everything I had learned about the dangerous reaction, about Mr. Johnson knowing about the danger, about him going to find the life-saving reagent. He was trying to save you, Sarah said, tears in her eyes. He was always thinking of others. But why didn't he come back? Emily asked. Why didn't he save himself? That was the hardest question. I looked at her. She was only 12, but she already knew that her father would not come back. I don't know, I replied. But I know he did it with love. Sarah hugged the children. Daddy did it to save Michael. He was always a hero. Tommy, the youngest, didn't understand what was happening. When is Daddy coming back? He asked. Sarah's tears immediately fell. Daddy won't come back, honey, but he will always be with us in our hearts. But why? The boy asked. Because he did a very good thing. He saved Michael's life. I felt even more guilty. Their family had lost their father, their husband, because of me. Double quotes Mrs. Johnson. I said, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. No, Michael, she interrupted. It's not your fault. My husband made his choice, and he made it with love. Detective Williams came over to us. Mrs. Johnson, we've done some additional investigation, and we've learned something important. What exactly? We found a video on the school's surveillance system, and it shows what happened to your husband. We all looked at him with interest. Can we see this video? Sarah asked. Yes, but warn the kids, it can be difficult. We entered the room with the monitors. Detective Williams turned on the video from the camera that was installed in the third floor. Hallway. Johnson appeared on the screen. He left the lab and walked down the hallway. He looked normal, with no signs of worry. Watch carefully, the detective said. We watched him approach the old laboratory. The door was slightly open. He peered inside, then went in. And then something terrible happened. Thick white smoke billowed out of the laboratory. Mr. Johnson immediately began coughing and covered his face with his hands. He tried to run away, but the smoke was too thick. Oh God, Sarah whispered. We saw him fall to his knees, trying to reach the exit, but the smoke was getting thicker. He tried to leave a message, the detective said, but he couldn't. The gas was acting on him too quickly. The recording showed him trying to write something on the wall, but the force was leaving him. Why didn't the ventilation system work? I asked. We're checking that, the detective replied, but it looks like the fan was off. Who could have done it? That's what we're trying to figure out. The recording continued. We saw Mr. Johnson lose consciousness and fall to the floor. The smoke gradually cleared, but it was too late. Why didn't he call for help? Sarah asked. Maybe he couldn't. The gas affected him too quickly. What about Michael? Why is he okay? Because he was in another lab where the ventilation was working, and he didn't inhale enough gas to do any harm. Sarah looked at me gratefully. Are you okay? Yes. The doctors said I wasn't poisoned. Then God bless you. Emily asked, why was the smoke only in the old lab? That's a very good question, the detective said, and we don't think it was an accident. What do you mean? Asterisk, we think someone intentionally turned off the ventilation in the old lab, and someone intentionally created the conditions for the reaction that released the gas. We were all shocked. Do you think it was murder? Sarah asked. We're not ruling that out, and we want Michael to help us find the truth. I looked at him. How can I help? Tell us everything you remember, every detail, even the smallest. I started talking again about the experiment, the reagents, what was happening in the lab. Did you hear a clicking sound? The detective asked. Double quotes, yes. I thought it was a fan. Did you see anyone enter the lab? No. I was engrossed in my notes. And you didn't notice anyone touching the equipment? I thought about it. No. But wait, Mr. Johnson mentioned something about someone changing the reagents. What exactly? He said that the concentration of some of the solutions was not what he expected. That's very important, the detective said. Maybe someone intentionally changed the concentration of the reagents to make the reaction more dangerous. Who could have done that? Sarah asked. That's what we're trying to find out. But first we want to test all the reagents in the lab. At 4 p.m., we returned to the school. The investigators reanalyzed the lab, checking all the reagents, the equipment, the ventilation system. And then they found something that changed everything. Look at this, one of the experts said. Pointing to the ventilation control panel, someone manually turned off the system. When did that happen? According to the records, about an hour before the incident. Who could have done it? A person with access to the system, and someone who knew about the experiment. We all looked at Detective Williams. We're checking everyone who had access to this. And after our discovery at the school, Detective Williams received a call that Thomas Brown had been found in his Maple Street apartment. He had not tried to escape, but he had not been answering his phone. Prepare for questioning, Detective Williams told me. Your testimony will be very important. I was tense. I had never had to participate in the questioning of a murder suspect, but I knew it was necessary for Mr. Johnson, for his family, for the truth. Thomas Brown was a middle-aged man with a tired face and gray hair. He was sitting in the interview room, staring at the floor when we entered. "Mr. Brown, Detective," Williams began, "we want to talk to you about Mr. Johnson's death." Brown looked up. His eyes were red. It looked like he had been crying. "I know what you're talking about. I've seen the news. Did you see Mr. Johnson today?" "No, I haven't seen him in over 3 months. But you were at school today." Brown paled. I don't know what you're talking about. We have video footage. You entered the school at 4:30 p.m. and you were in the lab." That's not true." "Then explain this," the detective said, placing a still from the video footage in front of him. The still clearly showed Thomas Brown entering the school through the service entrance. I just wanted to get my things," he muttered. "What things?" "My personal belongings. They were left behind after I was fired." "But you went to the lab." "Why?" Brown fell silent. I could see his hands starting to shake. Double quotes, "Mr. Brown," I said. "I was there. I saw what happened." He looked at me in horror. You're that guy?" "Yes. And I know Mr. Johnson died trying to save me." "What?" "He knew about the dangerous reaction, and he went to find the rescue reagent. But someone turned off the ventilation." Brown collapsed onto the table. "Oh God, I didn't want anyone to die." "What did you do?" the detective asked. I just wanted to show him that he was wrong, that he made me a victim." "What exactly did you do?" "I changed the concentration of the reagents. I thought it would just scare him, that he would realize that I was right. But you turned off the ventilation." "No, I didn't know he was going to go to the old lab. I thought he was just going to stop the experiment. But he went to get more sodium thiosulfate, and he died of hydrogen bromide poisoning." Brown fell to his knees. "I couldn't have predicted that. I just wanted to show him he was wrong." "Show him what?" "That he victimized me. 3 months ago, he accused me of tampering with the reagents. He fired me without paying me any compensation. And because of that, I lost my job, my house, everything. But that doesn't excuse what you did. I didn't want to kill anyone. I just wanted to ruin his experiment. I thought it would just scare him. But you changed the concentration of the reagents." "How exactly?" "I added more sodium thiosulfate. I thought it would just change the outcome of the experiment. But when combined with the bromine water at high temperatures, it created the conditions for the release of toxic gas. I didn't know about this reaction." I looked at him. This man had ruined other people's lives because of his anger and desire for revenge. But he didn't want to kill Mr. Brown. I said, "Mr. Johnson was a wonderful teacher. He loved his job, and he died trying to save me, a student he barely knew." Brown sobbed. I know I made a terrible mistake. I'm willing to take the punishment." "You're confessing?" the detective asked. Double quotes, "Yes, I confess. I changed the concentration of the reagents. I turned off the ventilation in the old lab. I wanted to ruin Mr. Johnson's experiment, but I didn't want to kill anyone. Do you understand that you are accused of accidental murder?" "Yes, and I'm willing to take the responsibility." At 8 p.m., Brown was arrested. He was charged with the involuntary manslaughter of Mr. Johnson. The court found that he acted with the intention of damaging the teacher's reputation, but did not intend to kill. "If I had known it would result in death," Brown said before he was taken away, "I would never have done it." The next day, the entire school learned of the tragedy. Students cried. Teachers were shocked. Mr. Johnson was a beloved teacher to many. "He was a hero," said the head teacher. "He sacrificed his life to save a student." The following week, the school held a memorial service. The service was simple, but deeply emotional. Sarah Johnson gave a speech about how wonderful her husband was. "He was always thinking of others," she said. "Even in his last moments, he was thinking of Michael's safety." Emily and Tommy also shared their thoughts. Emily said her father had taught her to be kind and Tommy simply said he missed his dad. I stood in the front row, feeling a huge weight of guilt. I was the cause of all this. After the service, Sarah came up to me. Michael, she said, my husband saved you. Now you have to live your life in a way that makes sure his sacrifice was not in vain. How can I do that? Become the person he wanted you to be. Be a good scientist. Be a person who helps others. I'll try. I know you will. Because you're just like my husband. You both think of others. A month later, Thomas Brown was sentenced to 10 years in prison. The court found that he had not intended to kill, but it recognized that his actions had tragic consequences. I continued to go to school, but now every day was different. I always remembered Mr. Johnson, his sacrifice, what had happened. A year later, I got a scholarship to university to study chemistry. I decided that I would become a scientist, just like Mr. Johnson wanted. Are you proud of me? I asked once. Standing by his grave, the wind whispered back. I knew he was proud. Sarah Johnson became my second mother. She helped me with my studies, supported me in difficult moments. Emily and Tommy became my little brother and sister. Dad was right about you. Emily told me before I left for university. You really are a hero. No, I replied. I'm just the lucky one. The next morning, I woke up feeling like it was all a bad dream. But when I saw the picture on my phone, I knew it was true. Mr. Johnson was dead, and I was the reason for it. My parents were sitting at breakfast, but no one was eating. They were worried about me. Double quotes Michael, are you okay? Mom asked. No, I said. I killed the teacher. No, honey, you didn't kill anyone, Dad said. It was an unfortunate accident. But if I hadn't done that experiment, then someone else could have been hurt. Mr. Johnson knew the danger and made his choice. I got up from the table and went to my room. I couldn't eat. I couldn't think. I couldn't live with this weight on my shoulders. At 11 o'clock, Sarah Johnson arrived at our house. She didn't come as a widow, but as someone who wanted to talk. Michael, she said, hugging me, I came to thank you. Thank you? I couldn't believe my ears. Yes. You were the last person to see my husband alive, and you helped investigators figure out what happened. But I'm the reason why it happened. No, Michael, it was one man's anger and desire for revenge. You were the victim. I felt guilty. I know. But you should know this. My husband always said that the best way to honor someone is to continue doing what they loved. What did he love? He loved teaching. He loved sharing knowledge, and he loved helping young people reach their potential. I looked at her. I'm not sure I can do it. You're already doing it. You helped investigators find the truth. You were honest and open, and you survived to continue his case. Emily and Tommy came to us too. Emily was quiet, and Tommy didn't understand why everyone was crying. Michael, Emily said, Dad said you were very talented. He said you would make a real scientist, but I made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes, even adults, but real people learn from their mistakes. Tommy came to me. Will you be my teacher when I grow up? I hugged him. I'll try. Tommy, I'll try to be like your dad. At 2 p.m., Detective Williams arrived. He came to tell us about the results of the investigation. Michael, we've arrested Thomas Brown. He said, he confessed to everything. What did he say? He said he wanted to ruin your experiment to get back at Mr. Johnson. But he didn't mean to kill anyone. But that's exactly what happened. Yes, and now he has to be held accountable. Will he be convicted? The court will decide. But it looks like it's going to be a random murder. He didn't mean to kill. I felt relieved. This wasn't a premeditated murder. This was a tragedy that happened out of anger and revenge. Michael, the detective said, you were a great witness. Your testimony helped us understand what happened. What about the school? The school will continue to operate. But they're going to install new security systems in the labs. Who's going to teach chemistry? There's going to be a temporary teacher for now. But they're looking for a new permanent teacher. I thought about how this school would go on, even after such a tragedy. People went on living, even after their losses. At 4 p.m., I decided to go to school. I wanted to see the lab where it happened. Maybe it would help me heal. The school was quiet. Most of the students were home, and the teachers were getting ready. For Monday, I walked over to the lab where Mr. Johnson and I were working. The door was closed and locked. He was a great teacher, a voice said behind me. I turned and saw Miss Lynch, our biology teacher. Yes, I said, he was the best. He always said that science is not just facts. It's a way of thinking, a way of understanding the world. I'll remember that. And he also said that the most important thing in science is safety. No experiment is worth a human life. I nodded. He told me that too. Asterisk, he was a hero. Michael, he died trying to save you. But why me? Because he loved his students. He loved sharing knowledge. And he was willing to sacrifice himself to save another. I felt tears fill my eyes. I can't forget this. You don't have to forget, but you have to remember with love, not guilt. How can I do that? Keep learning, keep exploring, but always remember to be safe and always help others, just as he helped you. I nodded. I'll try. I know you will, because you're just like him. You both think of others. I got home at 5 p.m. My family was waiting for me anxiously. How are you? Mom asked. Better, I replied. I talked to Miss Lynch and Sarah Johnson. What did she say? She said Mr. Johnson was a hero and that I should carry on his work. That's right. Dad said he would have wanted you to become a scientist. But I made a mistake. Yes, but you learned from that mistake, and you'll be more careful now. I want to do something for his family. What exactly? I want to help Emily and Tommy with their studies, and I want to help Sarah. That's a great idea. Mom said he would appreciate it. At 7 p.m., I got a text from Detective Williams. Michael, Thomas Brown has confessed to everything. The trial is next week. I said, thank you. I'll be a witness. You don't have to do this. Yes, but I want to do it for Mr. Johnson. The next day I went to school again. This time I met with the school principal, Mr. Wilson. Michael, I'm glad you came. He said, I have a proposition for you. What proposition? We want to create a scholarship in Mr. Johnson's name, and we want you to be the first recipient of this scholarship. I don't deserve it. Yes, that's why you're getting it. You survived to carry on his work. What does that mean? It means that you can go to college without financial hardship, and that you can become what he wanted you to be. I felt tears fill my eyes again. Thank you. No, thank you. You helped us understand that real heroes are not those who do loud things. They're those who think about others. I will never forget Mr. Johnson, and I must not forget, but remember him with love. At 9 p.m., I sat in my room, looking at the starry sky. I thought about Mr. Johnson, about his family, about what happened. And I realized one thing. Life goes on. People go on living, even after the worst tragedies. And my mission is to continue his work. To become a scientist. To help others. To think about others. Yes, I found a dead teacher in the lab. But I also found a hero. And I learned that true love and sacrifice can change the world. This story is about how even in the most terrible circumstances, great love and sacrifice can be born, and that true heroes are those who think of others, even when it costs them their lives.
Com popo é vapo, vapo no setor é vapo, vapo do vapor, vapo, vapo no setor é vapo, vapo do vapor, vapo, vapo.